Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything Pistons, and news writer for Sports Illustrated.
And if you guys are watching with us live here on YouTube, of course, the usual thank you, subscribe, all that stuff, give a like, really helps us out. But want to apologize for my appearance. If you guys are listening on podcast, it won't matter. But I look a little bit gross. Just got back from a bike ride that took a little bit longer than I thought. But this is my dedication level, Blake, to talking Pistons this offseason right before the draft. I didn't have time to get showered. Just came right in, sat down, and we're podcasting, darn it.
No, cheers to you. I mentioned it off air, but it is so dang hot in the Metro Detroit area where I'm at. You said it's the same on the other side of the state. So shout out to you for getting out for that long on this total scorcher of a day.
Well, look, in my defense, I didn't plan to be out in the afternoon. I had thought I'd be back well before noon. But you ride a little slower with the group that you're with, and then you get lost on the way back. I mean, nothing played to my advantage here on this bike ride, Blake. Absolutely nothing did. So by the time I got back, it was 95 for the last 10-ish miles, and I probably got burnt pretty good. Oh well.
Oh man. Yeah. At least you earned a nap you could take after this podcast or get a good night's sleep tonight. So you have been outside much longer than I have today, just because the heat is insane. I can't complain because I would much rather it be this way, but man, it's hot out there.
I think you're right though, because when we had that stretch of 60-degree days in late May, I will take a heat wave over that. At least right now it feels like summer instead of not summer by the time we get past Memorial Day. So you're right. Can't complain too much.
Yeah, and we've been getting a lot of rain over here too. We got a pretty good downpour this morning too, which I hope you didn't get caught in. So it feels nice.
I did not, but I'm over actually on the other side of the lake now. We have successfully completed our move to the Chicago area. So we got poured on last night pretty good, but
there you go.
Not today. Today it's just heat.
Helped with the bike ride.
For sure, yeah. Would definitely prefer not to be wet on the bike. But wanted to ask you this, getting into Pistons conversation here. Do you have any kind of final draft thoughts here as we're coming up? Because shockingly, it's this week.
Yeah, it's great. And especially now that the NBA finals are going to game 7, it always feels like the draft is such a quick turnaround after the finals. But this year it's going to be especially close. We're recording on Saturday, game 7 is on Sunday, and then the draft is a few days later. So, I mean, I feel like my final draft thoughts are it's crazy how little discussion we've had just because of where the Pistons are and this season that they had. There was a lot to talk about, and there still is, and all these off-season decisions they're going to make. I guess my big thought is are we going to see a trade, whether it's something small in terms of maybe the Pistons trading up into the the end of the first round, or if they're involved in a trade for a player. We just saw Desmond Bane get traded to Orlando, which wasn't it's a big trade, but not a huge shocker. I was a little surprised we didn't see the Kevin Durant trade as the first domino to fall. So that was just kind of okay, this crazy off season that everyone says it's going to be is kind of starting, and or it already did start. So it feels like we're at that time. And I don't know how big of a trade the Pistons could make, but I could totally see them being involved in some sort of trade, whether it's before the draft or during or right after.
I think at least as far as the draft goes, it feels like stars kind of align for the Pistons to trade up into the back end of the first round. I mean, the Pistons' second round cupboard is pretty well stocked right now. And there are a few teams at the back of the first round, maybe the last 5 to 7 picks or so, where you could look at the rosters and either it's like a Brooklyn situation where they just have so many picks it makes sense for them to back out and kind of save the money on that, or some other teams that just are kind of up against it cap wise, and it'd be smarter for them to make a high second round pick instead of a late first round pick. And you could flip that too from the Pistons perspective. It makes more sense to get a guy under team control for those 4 years, really 5 years after the pick on a pretty cheap deal, but maybe you get your pick out of that swath of talent there from, picks 25 to maybe 35 or 40. Honestly, I think that's my expectation at this point. It seems like there's too many incentives pushing in that direction. Whether or not it happens, we'll see. But I'm kind of expecting the Pistons to pick maybe at that like Nets pick. YouTube user brings up the Nets having 4 first round picks. I could see them picking at maybe like 27 instead of 37.
Yeah. And the Nets they have 26 and 27 in addition to their number 8 and number 19. Like that's a lot. I mean, for a team like that is probably just trying to take as many swings as they can. Like maybe they do make all those picks, but that is a lot of first round picks to have, especially like you're looking at 26, 27. Both of those probably won't work out. And yeah, YouTube user, they have 36 as well. So maybe they are interested in like making a deal for one of those picks. And even if they do, like I could see them asking the Pistons for multiple second round picks in the future. Like I could see the Pistons taking 26 or 27 and keeping their pick at 37, just because I don't know if the Nets are necessarily looking to add another pick in this draft class. So that would be more interesting. And I think if the Pistons do end up in that 26-27 range, they'd probably be in the range of one of the players that we were talking about last week. I think mainly the guys we hit on are probably more likely to be in that range than all being available for the Pistons at like 37, for example.
That's a really good point about Brooklyn. So YouTube user brings up that the Nets have 36 as well. I think that's correct.
It is.
Either way, they have an early second round pick. Would they really want to add another young player at 37 as well? The Thunder last year, they bought, if I'm remembering this correctly, they basically just purchased a late first round pick for 4 or 5 second round picks in the future. Maybe that's the kind of thing that you're looking at there with the Nets, which could be really interesting if the Pistons are picking at, say, 27 and 37, right? Because there are a couple guys like we talked about last week. Everyone we went over last week, I think there's a solid split. There were 3 guys that I would be very comfortable picking up in the first round and trading assets to get up to. And with the current CBA, those second round picks, those are assets, guys. They do have value, as we're kind of seeing right now. That would be Noah Penda, Maxime Reynaud, and then Ben Suraf. If that's what the Pistons want to do, one of those 3 guys are sitting there, and a couple other guys that we didn't get to cover. But of the names that we had looked at, if one of those 3 guys are sitting there, I'm much more comfortable with the trade up. If it's a trade up for like a Ryan Kalkbrenner, I don't know. I'm not as confident in making that move. But if you could have both picks, right, and you could say maybe get a guy like Noah Penda and then an intriguing international player in Hansen Yang at 37, that's really interesting. That is a really interesting draft for a team that straight up did not have a first round pick coming into it. So I think that there's, Fleming, a YouTube user brings up Fleming. That's another good name. I like him. I wouldn't mind him on a trade up either. So this could get really interesting. It kind of feels like Langdon has quite a few options, even though he doesn't have a first round pick in his cupboard right now. And like I said, I'm almost expecting them to acquire one on draft night. It's just how high up do they go?
Yeah, and it's almost like why not if the price is like a couple second round picks, similar to what, I mean, different front office obviously, but similar to what they did with when they went up for Marcus Sasser a couple years ago. I think just getting that extra year of team control is important, especially if you are drafting one of these younger guys, but there's also, if they move up into the end of the first round, there's like Walter Clayton Jr., who could probably contribute right away. That's an older prospect. So I think there are a lot of interesting players at that point, and I would personally like them to try and keep that 37 and give up some like future seconds if that were the case, because at that 37, I think that, I mean, we talked about Kalkbrenner and Hanson Yang last week. Like, there are a number of bigs in that range that I think could start at the end of the bench, but maybe be like a backup big one day. And just when we don't know what's going on in the future, like if Jalen Duren's going to get an extension, what the deal with Paul Reed is, I just think that would be a good end of the bench stash, or someone that can get time with the G League team, whatever have you. So if they end up with multiple, that's great. But yeah, it's just so weird going into a draft like without a top 10, top 5 pick like we've been so used to in the past few years.
Can I just ask you a quick question on Kalkbrenner before we go on into the questions that we've actually gotten this week? But since you brought it up, it seems like, or at least it seems to me, Kalkbrenner's a pretty plug and play drop big, right? He seems like a surefire NBA player. And I wonder if in this draft, do you think that a player with that profile, even though he's older, because he's such a sure thing, is almost a lock to go first round instead of being able to be sitting there at 37?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I feel like it does just depend on like who is at the end of the first round, or if there are any trades. Like right now, after those Brooklyn picks to round out the first round is Boston, Phoenix, and LA, the Clippers. So, I mean, I could see one of them needing a backup big. Those are all teams that are trying to compete depending on what happens in Phoenix. So yeah, I mean, I think it for teams like that, like if I was in control, I would definitely take a chance on an older guy who can have some like contribute to the rotation right away. Like I think the final pick of the first round last year was Boston with Baylor Shireman, and like he didn't do a ton, but he had some moments, and he's there to provide shooting. So similar to that approach, I could definitely see someone like a team taking a chance on Kalkbrenner just because they think he can contribute end of the rotation minutes right away, or foul trouble, or whatever it might be. And yeah, YouTube user and Sean are talking about Rocco Zakarski in the chat. I was just looking at this. He did stay in the draft, and he's another one of those bigs that second round grade, and he's super interesting to me. Like he was in a lot of lottery mock drafts at the start of the year and going into the year. Just his situation in the NBL in Australia, he didn't get a lot of minutes, and it's hard to in those situations, but he's still going to be 18 years old on draft night. Like that, I would personally take a swing on Zakarski, knowing that he's going to need a lot more time than someone like Kalkbrenner. But where the Pistons are and like what they're trying to do in the coming years, like it makes it a more interesting debate.
All right, let's get to some of our pre-submitted questions here. This first one's from KCP43, and it's through in the DBB comments. It says, is anybody apprehensive about trading Tobias Harris, seeing as how bad it went for us last time we did it? Of course, referencing the trade for Blake Griffin back in the day.
I mean, I totally get this. And shout out to KCP43. Hope all is well. But I just think it's different, like a different situation. I think the issue here is if the Pistons do want to make a trade for any player that makes a decent salary within the next year, you sort of have to include Tobias Harris in the deal just for salary matching purposes. So it totally depends on who they're bringing in when they would potentially send Tobias Harris out. But yeah, I totally get being apprehensive about it. Like he was really good this past year, and yeah, he's not he's on the back half of or the way down from his prime, and there's always a chance that you can fall off the cliff like at his age. But overall, I just think what the team's books look like now, you if there is a deal on the table that is going to net the Pistons like a decent piece, Tobias is going to be included, and that's kind of just how it has to be. But he was huge for this team, both on the court and it seems like in the locker room as well. Knowing his deal is going to be an expiring this year, I think it makes it a little bit easier, and like teams would be interested in acquiring that contract. So I get it. Like I would miss him if he was sent out, but it's sort of like if there is a trade, Tobias has to be sent out.
Yeah, I mean, I was just when I saw this question, one, I thought it was funny the setup for it. So good question there from KCP for three. But I'm worried about getting rid of Tobias Harris, regardless of how it went last time. I'm just worried for the locker room, the leadership element that he had. I mean, he was the head of the snake in a way with those veterans. I mean, Beasley was kind of the vibes guy, right? He was the energy player, but Tobias was the rock, and they really needed that last year. They really did. I think it was tremendously helpful with, kind of a solid but a bit of a rocky start to the year, a little bit of ups and downs before they really hit their stride. And Tobias is consistent through all of it. He's not only a vocal presence there in the locker room and on the floor, but also in his production. So I wonder, I would be worried about the impact of prematurely jettisoning that, prematurely getting rid of a guy who's providing that while still being more or less solid for his position. So I kind of I'm of the position that unless there's some sort of sign and trade mechanics where you could grab a larger contract without getting rid of Tobias, I'd rather just pass. I'd rather keep him on at least until the deadline. At the deadline you could reevaluate, right? If it seems like everything's pretty stable, then I mean naturally he's on an expiring deal, and that contract becomes pretty valuable at the trade deadline for teams that want to create space. So maybe then you revisit it and you think about it. Maybe you could get another really good piece. But for now, I'd rather just hold on to him, keep that locker room consistency between kind of the three leaders being Cade, Bickerstaff, and Tobias Harris. I want to keep that consistent, at least for now.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is getting ahead of it, but do you think say Tobias remains on the team through the season, do you think he signs another deal? Like obviously, hopefully a lesser contract to stay with the team with how old he is, but do you think he can grow into that? Like they're not the same type of player or person, but I'm thinking of like what James Johnson is for the Pacers right now. Like, do you think he could eventually be that for the Pistons if he stays through this current deal?
I think it's up to him. Kind of hard to predict,
Yeah.
right? Like if he is cool with a long run plan of I'm a placeholder at this 4 position until Ron Holland, becomes a real player and he needs to start at the 3 and a star shifts up to the 4. And I'm okay with at that point then moving to the bench and sticking this out long term. So because maybe you like the direction of where the team's going, maybe you just really like to be in Detroit, or you like the people, like your teammates, what have you. Like if that's his plan and he's okay with that, then yeah, I think it's awesome. Great idea. Bring him back, keep him on for another, 2, 3, 4 years if you can. If he wants another payday, which he probably can get. Like, I'm not saying big. I'm not saying the level that he's at right now, but with the way that the cap keeps going up next offseason, I bet he could get somewhere over 20 mil again, but it wouldn't be from Detroit. If he's comfortable going, non-taxpayer MLE, maybe now we're talking, but that's hard to predict without knowing the guy individually, right?
For sure. And I think from like the information we know, like we've heard that he likes Detroit. Apparently, I think it was he met his wife during his first stint here and like her family is here. So, I mean, it seems like he wants to be here. So, yeah, the only reason I ask is like I could just see him being in that trajectory. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's not after this current deal, he signs a minimum deal to stay here, but like a little bit more than that, and that's still like a good a good chunk of money, obviously.
And so Sean brings up in the comments an interesting point. He says his value extends beyond basketball, which I totally agree with. And this is even though he's overpaid for his basketball production, I'd actually I would put the pause button on the overpaid element of this. He's basically 10 mil over the non-taxpayer MLE, and he's a pretty efficient 14, 6, and 2 every night without much variation. I mean, if he's overpaid, it's not as much as I think the common conversation might say that he is. I know 26 feels like a big number, but it's really not. It's not all that big. He's paid like a average to about above average starter, and I think he's got a really good case that that's exactly what he was last year.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the when it comes out that Tobias Harris at like age 33 or 32 or whatever he was when he re-signed with the Pistons, like 2 years, 52 million, it sounds like a lot. But with the cap going up every year and you like need to pay someone, and not saying you should just throw money at anyone, but yeah, I think I understood why when Tobias signed, it was like, oh, we like this signing, but it does seem like an overpay. But I don't think it's like egregious or anything like that. Like you said, he was really good at points, and it's not like he's on a $40 million contract where you need him to be your number two scorer or number one scorer, whatever it might be.
And how about this, right? Tobias Harris is a major reason why the Pistons won 2 playoff games. He's a major reason why the other playoff games were all close, right? I think that alone is worth the $26 million in salary. Without him, do they win any of those? I'm not confident because if he's out, if you just remove him, everything else stays the same and Isaiah Stewart goes down. Oh, I'm afraid Karl Anthony Towns is powering those Knicks to a sweep. So, Tobias
Yeah.
Harris, we thank you for your service. $26 million well spent, I say.
Yeah, totally agree there. And I mean, I know the regular season was a lot more of a roller coaster, but plenty of times in the regular season too,
Stepped up after Ivy went
yeah,
down.
exactly. Like made big shots when you needed him to. And things, yeah, exactly. Like when Ivy went down too, and the scoring was a little bit in flux. And yeah, Sean mentioned like his pay is fine right now, but we can't afford to pay him at that price moving forward. Totally agree.
Oh,
And like,
yeah, agreed.
yeah, I don't think like he would make anything close to 26 mil a year after this deal, honestly. Um, but like I kind of see it around the 10, 8, 9, 10 range, whatever it might be. So yeah, and especially because it was like a shorter term deal, like I can understand wanting like a 2 year deal, first year guaranteed, second year team option, but like I think the deal is good, and it's not like they have him at 26 mil for 3 or 4 years.
All right, let's get to a couple of mock trade ideas. First one here from Basketball XTR is, should the Pistons try to get Jaren Jackson Jr. if Memphis makes him available?
I'd say yeah, because like why not? He's a really good player. He was defensive player of the year 3 years ago, and he can shoot as well. I am just skeptical that Memphis is going to make him available. I know they just traded Desmond Bain and they got back a boatload of draft picks and KCP and Cole Anthony, but I don't know. Like something makes me think that they're going to try to compete with Ja and Jaren Jackson, and maybe they throw their hat in the ring for one of the bigger names that are available. Like, could they be a KD team? I know KD probably doesn't, that's not his first choice and where he wants to go, but like I see Memphis as a team who just acquired all these draft picks. Yes, they lose Desmond Bane, who's one of the best shooters in the league, like defends as well. But KCP had a bad year in Orlando. Cole Anthony is a rotational player. Like, I could see them using a couple of those picks that they acquired to like go and get someone else, because I guess like what does it do at this point to like just go into full tank mode like Utah did, and aren't they don't have don't have a top 4 pick. So I just like don't see that Memphis is necessarily going to try to trade Jaren or Ja Morant unless things get like really bad from here.
So I'm with you that I just don't think that they're gonna make him available. It seems like they want to be a team with 2 very good, very highly paid players, and then a lot of really solid role players, instead of a team with like 3 really highly paid players and then not a lot of role players. So I think that was more the motivation there, at least from the outsider's perspective, right? But let me ask you this: Jaren Jackson Jr., can he play the 5? Primarily, like let's say it's like a 60-40 split, 60 being at the 5.
I mean, I don't think so. Like, you saw what Memphis has been doing. So
Yeah. So I'm out. Like I just Jaren Jackson Jr. is a great player. I think he's really, really good. I love the archetype of player as well, but I think he's a lot more, say, like a Miles Turner type offensive talent, maybe an Evan Mobley type offensive talent. 2 guys that better at the 5, by the way, than he is like a Chet Holmgren. And I know he can't really defend the 5 because he gets moved and he doesn't have a lot of play strength out there. So for me, I don't think the fit's really there. I'm not all that intrigued by having him next to Jalen Duren. The idea that would be intriguing is if you could get a guy like him to play a little bit more strong and then really space out the floor with Asar Thompson there on the wing. I just don't think he's the guy to do that. So I think I'm just kind of out.
Yeah, and YouTube user brings us up too. Like, the price for Jaren Jackson would be pretty high. Like, I mean, you saw what Desmond Bane just got, and Jaren Jackson has like, so I think maybe the price would be a little less for Jaren, but I still think it would be multiple firsts and like a young player or two, like YouTube user said. But Jaren Jackson, his deal just goes through next season. You have to make sure he'd resign. I think he would resign here, but you never know. And that's why I think maybe the price that Orlando paid for Desmond Bane's a little bit more than what Jaren could potentially go for. But yeah, I think no matter what, if the Pistons give up a number of their assets for Jaren Jackson, they could be limited moving forward. So you have to be totally sure about that. And I'm not sure that that's the right move for them either.
All right, another mock trade here. This is from Dave, 10.9 miles north of LCA. This is a trade proposal that he's bringing up from, I believe it was Bleacher Report. It was about Austin Reeves. So the fake trade is Detroit receiving Austin Reeves from the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers would then get Jalen Duren, Simone Fontecchio, and the number 37 overall pick in this year's draft. So what do you think of that sort of trade here from Bleacher Report?
I mean, like, I don't think the Lakers do this. Like, Austin Reeves is obviously really good, and I just don't see them giving him up. And Reeves, just for numbers' sake, he's slated to make just under $14 million next year, and then has a $15 million player option the following season, which he'd probably decline and get paid. So that's another element to this. If you trade for Austin Reeves, is he going to resign or re-sign here? Like, you know what he said during all the draft talk and everything. So I just don't think the Lakers do this. If I'm the Pistons, like I say yes, as long as you can try and get Reeves to re-sign here. But I think the Lakers, if they are making this deal with Detroit, would be more interested in sending over the package that fell through for Mark Williams, which was like Dalton Connect and their first round pick and a swap, I believe, and salary filler. So even that is still a little interesting to me. Like I wouldn't necessarily just want to give Duran up unless you can at least get a better asset like that first round pick or Reeves, for example. So yeah, I just don't see the Lakers giving up Reeves either.
Yeah, I really don't either. I think this is one of those rare Bleacher Report trades where the Pistons significantly come out on top and the Lakers kind of don't, which is shocking. I mean, look, here, if we could just like take a step back for this one. All right. Austin Reeves is one of the most efficient 20 points per game guys in the NBA right now. Last year, he was 46% from the floor, 38% from three, and about 88% from the free throw line. He can get his own shot. He was even better. Let's see if I could pull up his splits real quick, because I know he was even better early on in the season before they made the trade for Luka Doncic. Let's see. Yeah, what was his? Yeah, he in the month of February it was 22, 4 rebounds, and about 6 assists. Late in the season, in March, he actually picked it up even more, 23, 5, and 5. Like Austin Reeves is a legitimate second option. He would come into Detroit, be more or less the perfect off-ball guard to put next to Cade, offensively at least. Defensively, you'd need to cover him quite a bit. He's not a very good defender at all. But that's the type of player that you're getting here. And from the Pistons' perspective, again, if we step back and just kind of try to look outside looking in, the Pistons have about 4 very interesting young player assets on the roster right now. So they're sending out likely the least valuable of them, salary filler, and a second round pick. That's a home run. Yeah. I know that you've got a big hole at the center. That's a home run. The value there is way too lopsided for you to say no. I think it's too much to pass up. So much so that I'm with you. I would be floored if this kind of trade were actually on the table. Like, I know that the Lakers need a lob threat, and I know that there's some speculation that like Austin Reeves didn't want to take a back seat because he was playing so great, and then now he's like option 3. Like, I get it. I'd be floored.
Yeah, and like I think if Reeves was on the table like this, he would have been in the Luka Doncic trade. I mean, we know all the talk around that on like what the Mavs did or didn't ask for. So like I just don't think he's going to be available for this price. And yeah, like I mentioned it, Sean is mentioning it in the chat and YouTube user, how like the Pistons were interested in drafting Reeves. His agent told them not to, and he signed the undrafted deal with LA. So, I mean, I think the one.
What draft was that, by the way? That was 3 years ago. So who was that? Was that Ivy?
I don't remember if he was in the Cade or Ivy draft class. It must be Ivy.
To be Ivy.
Who did they pick with that second round pick?
So it's not Saban. Is that Isaiah Livers?
Probably.
Or was Livers? Livers might have been with Cade.
Oh yeah, Livers was with Cade because it was those two and Luka Garza. I'm trying to. Yeah, bad podcasting, but essentially not drafted in the 2021 draft, which was the same year as Cade. So it was like one of those second.
So it was Livers.
Yeah, it was one of those second round picks that they had. And yeah, I just like if Reeves was like on the Desmond Bain contract, where he had more years, and it like then I would for sure say it's a home run, but just like
You wouldn't be able to
he
add him though. He'd be too much.
right. Yeah, and just like the fact that even if he is somehow traded to the Pistons or if he stays in LA or is traded to another team, like he's opting out of that player option next year. Like
Oh, for sure.
he's gonna get paid. So you have to be sure that you can re-sign him. Like don't give up Duran if just for like a year of Austin Reeves, I guess. Like is the question, unless Duran's not part of the long-term plan.
The only reason I brought up like the year that it was is just to bring up the point of what did he pass on and say he didn't want to be a part of at the end of the second round. That was, I think Dwayne Casey's still the coach. They were either the worst or the second worst team in basketball and were not necessarily looking like they were on the ups yet at all. In fact, he was correct. It only got worse from there. Don't you think maybe, guys, maybe it's just a little bit different now from Austin Reeves' perspective to come in and hypothetically join and want to stick around long term for a Pistons team that you're playing off Cade Cunningham. They just were the 6th seed. They took the Knicks to 6 games. They have legitimate momentum and other exciting young players that could fit very well next to you, right? Like if you have Cade and Reeves and then Holland actually hits, like that core group of 4 guys works extremely well together as a unit. Like I'm just saying, like it was really bad when he passed it up. I think it's fair to say maybe it's not so bad now.
I get it, but yeah, what YouTube user says that he's since made negative comments about Detroit since then. Like, I think there is an element of it as like he's said some pretty like uh not great
Yeah, he
things where
crapped on the last regime. Good for him.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. It seems like there's a little bit like more to it to me. So it is interesting, but if he gets traded here and it's not his choice and you're joining like one of the more exciting young teams in the league who already made the playoffs and like made it interesting against a team who went to the Eastern Conference Finals, like you got to get over it to a degree. But yeah, I get it too. And also just for, I guess if it's ever a trivia question one day, the Pistons did end up with Balsa Koprivica in that draft as well.
Balsa Koprivica. There's a name. Hadn't thought about that one in a while. Well, this conversation actually goes very nicely into this next question here from KCP for 3. It says, where do the two of you fall on the idea of the Pistons need a second star? He thinks that going after Lauri Markkanen makes a lot of sense. Others might say Trey Murphy. Others say just wait entirely. So where are the two of us at on this idea of a second star?
I think I'm in the boat of like, in an ideal world, like would I like for them to trade for Lauri Markkanen or Trey Murphy? Yes. And I do think like the Pistons undoubtedly need that long-term number 2 option next to Cade to reach a higher point, make a run at the Eastern Conference Finals, a championship eventually, whatever it might be. I guess I just worry about taking that swing and giving up like multiple first round picks and probably a young player or two. Like YouTube user was talking about, you'd have to give up for a player like Jaren Jackson. But like there's almost a degree of what like you have to do it at some point. Unless you're able to bring in a star through free agency or the draft. But I just think that's the less likely route that we're going to see here. And the other thing is like, what if it's Jaden Ivey? What if it's Ron Holland? We don't know that yet. So I think like overall, just where I'm at is like, I think we need a number 2 to Cade, and it's unclear who that is, whether it's a player who's on the roster right now or off, someone that you could probably get via trade. But I'm also just not rushing to go and acquire that guy. Like we just open up the door to be able to trade our first round picks and our draft assets. Like I'm not throwing them out right away unless the right deal is on the table.
I was actually texting Bryce about this the other day that, like, if you think about it and you actually start going year by year to build out what the Pistons might do to continue moving forwards and progressing and hopefully, right, becoming a real contender, it gets really difficult if Ron Holland doesn't hit. Like, seriously, like think about that. It gets so hard for this team to find a second kind of option that can play a little bit of defense and not be super high usage on ball, but do a little bit of everything anyway. Like, it gets really difficult without him hitting, because if he's not gonna be a hit and you waited for him, then you've missed the boat on making a move with Ivy, Duran, and some future second or future first round picks. Like, if you know right now that Ron Holland is not that kind of dude, that's what you'd do right now. You'd make the trade kind of like we just talked about with Austin Reeves or Lauri Markkanen, or like someone in that caliber that can go be your second option and get you 20, 23 points a night pretty efficiently, right? You would go do that today. You wouldn't even wait. That's what you would do. But if you want to give Holland some time, then you've already made contract decisions on Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duran, and Asar Thompson. And if he doesn't hit at that point, right, like what happens if you made kind of an auxiliary type move with Ivy or Duran this offseason or at the trade deadline under the anticipation that Ron Holland can eventually take that step up? You're not going to have high draft picks moving forwards, which means your draft picks moving forwards aren't going to be as valuable in trades as they are right now. Even if you keep Ivy and Duran and Asar Thompson, all three of those guys would be 3-4 years older than they are right now, which means they're not potential anymore, right? They're all solid. Everyone knows what they are and is trading for what they are currently, not expecting anything to change in the future. But right now, like, you get a little bit of a boost if you're thinking, maybe I want to trade Jaden Ivey, because people look at that, teams will look at that and say, oh, that's a scoring guard who has all these physical tools and maybe he can figure out how to improve his finishing around the rim, right? Like, there's a little bit of projection that teams do and they buy that potential. That's gone if you wait a few years. So, like, they're really between a rock and a hard place right now. And it's so weird to say that after the incredible success that they just had last year. But if you want to build this thing out, the uncertainty of what Ron Holland can become is really problematic, which is oddly enough to say. Like, it's really difficult to figure out where to go. I would not want to be in Langdon's shoes right now. It feels like either path you take, you make a big mistake. So all this is to say, or at least you could make a big mistake. All this is to say, they need a second star. The question is, do we still think Ron Holland can get there? And are we comfortable waiting for it? And how you answer that is loaded, no matter which way you go.
Yeah, and I guess, like, could Jaden Ivey, like, be that second scorer while, like, Holland gets some more time? And then, like, if Ivy and both Holland hit, then, like, you're in a really good spot. And I think Ivy has already shown us that he can get around 20 a night, and obviously stunk how he went down and missed, like, the great majority of the season. But yeah, it is, like, I don't know. I'm also thinking, if, say, like, worst case scenario and you're a couple years down the road and you don't have that second guy, like, if you keep all your draft picks, like, couldn't you just make that trade then? I mean, yeah, you'd probably need to add something player personnel wise, but, like, hopefully there should be, like, something that other teams are interested in as well, unless it could even just be like salary matching and a bunch of draft picks if you still have all your own draft picks.
Right. Like, that's the difference. Like, if you're going to make a move like that now or at the deadline, you're going to get away with fewer draft picks because you're able to add into the trade like a Jaden Ivey, a Jalen Duran, or theoretically even a Ron Hollander and a Sar Thompson, if that's what you really wanted to do. You would be able to save draft picks on the back end. Whereas later on, your really only path is to package up all of the picks you could potentially trade and maybe one of the guys that you've kept around this long, and see if that's enough to go get somebody. But that's not a super exciting package, even at that point. So it just gets hard. And then look, so a YouTube user says, don't see why Ivy can't get you 20 to 25 a night. My thing with Jaden is he's shown us that he could get us 18 a night very, very confidently, but he's still not a fantastic finisher around the rim. He needs to get better at that. And it's not just a skill thing. Like Sam Vecini was mentioning on the Pistons Pulse that if he could figure out how to decelerate and play with a little bit of pace around the basket, that would go a long way to helping with him with his finishing. I agree, but he also bricks a lot of layups. And that's a touch problem. That's a lot harder to fix. And I think you add on top of that he's never been, or at least it doesn't seem to be, that he's the type of guy to really put his head down and go for 40 or 50 on a given night. Like, he's just not quite wired in that way. That's also really hard to change. So you pair those things together. And for me, I'm just not sure that he's really going to be that type of guy. I think the 18 to 20 is probably where he's at, but I will readily admit he's easily the closest on this roster to being a legit second option. If he could fix those things, he can get up to, say, 22 a night. Well, that's perfect then. That answers all of these questions, and you're set, right? You're just rolling in money if Ron Holland becomes something fantastic after that, because you've already got Jaden Ivey. So that's why, that's the fingers crossed. I just kind of question if he's really going to get there. It's the last bit of leap, the last bit of improvement he needs to make to get to that level. It is a large and difficult step. It's not small, even though numbers wise, it's pretty small.
Yeah, I mean, I think he can. So he averaged 17.6 in 30 games last year before he went down. Shot just under 41% from three on just over 5 attempts per game. Like, I think if he can keep that up, and we've talked a bit before about him improving as like a movement shooter and everything, like, I think that is something that he'll be working on as well. So if he if he can shoot 41% on 5 attempts per game, like, year over year, and like improve his touch near the rim, his finishing near the rim a little bit, I think he can get up to around 20, maybe eventually that 22 to 25 range. But yeah, I think it is just like contingent on some more growth, which, like, I don't see a reason why it wouldn't happen. But yeah, I think, like, in general, like, maybe Ivy can just like bridge the gap if Ron Holland is the guy who is going to be the number 2 eventually. And not saying like Ivy would just be the odd man out after that, but he wouldn't have so much like pressure on him if he isn't a true like number 2 scoring option in the NBA.
Yeah, like, I love Jaden Ivey. Okay, I love Jaden Ivey. I want to extend him, like, right now. I want that done. I want to keep him long term. I think he's a great fit next to Cade. I love Jaden Ivey as a third option. I think that's kind of where he's tracking right now, and he'd be a fantastic third option. So I think you're spot on. Like, that's the dream, right? You get Jaden Ivey 18 to 20 points per game next 2-3 seasons, and then all of a sudden Ron Holland takes over, if he can, right? Fingers crossed. We don't know. He's also a ways away, so you're a little bit of magic dust there is prognosticating. But if he does, right, if he can take over, now you're really cooking, right? Mm-hmm. He can give you 17, 18 a night as your third option, be a secondary playmaker, do all that great stuff. And then you have a wing that's kind of like J-Dub in OKC right now, or maybe a little Jaylen Brown, something along those lines. That would be fantastic. It's just, if it doesn't happen, then you're a little bit stuck with a guy who's really shouldn't be your second option, and you'd probably have to get rid of him to get the guy that would be your second option. And it gets difficult, I think, really quick, since we're talking a little bit of Jaden Ivey, this is Sports Time. Says, do you agree with the talks of moving Jaden Ivey off ball?
I mean, I think how he was being used before he went down with injury kind of makes sense. Playing him like Cade's always going to be the guy who initiates offense. So if Ivy is playing next to him the majority of the time, like he can bring the ball up. He can play with the ball in his hands a little bit, but he also needs to know how to play off ball and be able to like create his own looks as like an off ball mover, run off screens, and also that like he can still play with the second unit a bit and like be the primary initiator himself and play with the ball in his hands more depending on what the rotation looks like if there is like a backup point guard. I just think the mixture makes all the sense in the world with Ivy because like he really isn't a point guard. Like he never was, and that doesn't mean he isn't a good facilitator, isn't good like with the ball in his hands. I just think to like where he has the biggest advantage is just with his quickness, his athleticism. So I think the best way to be able to use that is a mixture of everything, playing off ball, playing on ball, and just really being like a good mover and hopefully turning it into a good movement shooter. Like Wes has talked about this as length. He has one of the best examples and best mentors in Malik Beasley in the locker room, depending on what happens this offseason. But learn from him on how to like shoot on the move, watch his footwork, work with him a lot. Because I think that's just how Ivy can be the best version of whatever the like reach his ceiling as an NBA player.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I honestly I dislike this conversation quite a bit every time I see it pop up on like Twitter or on Pistons like forums and stuff. It's like, look, I understand why the perception exists that Jaden Ivey really is a purely on-ball player, right? His rookie year, he was the point guard, kind of. Like, let's not forget, he played next to Killian Hayes, all right? Shout out Killian Hayes. He made his appearance in this episode. So we've checked that box. But he, most of the offense was going through Jaden, and he was creating most of the looks for himself and others. Okay. So I get on some level why the perception exists that that's who Jaden Ivey is. He needs the ball all the time, but that's not who he was at Purdue. That's not who he's been since Cade came back healthy. All right. Like Jaden Ivey he's a two. No one in Cleveland's talking about we need to get rid of Darius Garland because Donovan Mitchell's a point guard. They're saying we need to get rid of Darius Garland because we need more size. Like it's a separate issue. It's not that we need Donovan Mitchell to have the ball more. Donovan Mitchell is a really good scorer, both off ball and with the ball in his hands. He can relieve the pressure from Garland. He can play point guard in short spurts. But really, what is Mitchell? He's a two guard. Okay, he's a very, very good two guard. Jaden Ivey's in the same mold. He's not wired as much aggressively, I think, as a scorer as Donovan Mitchell is. But the things that Mitchell is very good at and that make him that guy that's better off ball than primarily on the ball, same thing applies to Jaden Ivey. Like Donovan Mitchell's much more comfortable attacking a slanted floor off the way or off the bat, right? Getting the ball and already having an advantage created for him. He's very comfortable coming off DHOs, Iverson cuts. He's very comfortable, yes, with the ball in his hands in a pick and roll, but at the same time, he's also moving very well without the ball when someone else is operating pick and roll. Good decision maker, great fast break player. Like all of this stuff, it's Jaden Ivey. That's the mold. So I think that's where he needs to go, and that's where he's been, quite honestly. This isn't a change for Jaden Ivey, but like there's no change happening here is I guess my pushback. Like the conversation of moving Jaden Ivey off ball, he's been off ball. He's always been off ball. He's always been your secondary ball handler outside of the year with Killian Hayes. And that's really he was only a primary ball handler there then because Killian Hayes was your other primary ball handler. Like that's just kind of what it was. So yeah, I love it. Keep Jaden Ivey off the ball. He's not a point guard. This is good. I want to bring Schroeder back. We've talked about that so that Ivy can just play a consistent role all the time. No need to have him pretend to be a backup point guard either. Just let him be a primary scorer there in those bench units. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, 100%. And when Ivy went down and you saw like the glaring need at guard, like I think that kind of answers your question right there. You just
Right,
know
like Cade
that.
goes down, and all of a sudden the entire fan base realizes, "Oh my God, we don't have enough ball handlers." Like, well, we didn't have enough
Right,
ball handlers before. Now the problem's
right.
just obvious. So, like, please keep them. Golly,
Yeah. Yeah, and like YouTube user brings this up too, just like having a lot of guys who can score. Like just as many
give
guys
me
who
all the
can.
dribble, pass, shoot guys you can. If I
Yeah,
could get
exactly.
5 dribble, pass, shoot players on the court at the same time, and I can get away with that with size, fantastic. Do that, please.
Exactly. Yeah, so like it won't hurt as well. Is it Ivy's role to be a point guard? No. Like, can he play with the ball in his hands? Can he create some looks for his teammates? Yes, but you have Cade, and then just like let Ivy be the player that he is, which should be mostly off the ball.
Yeah, like if we were to go back in time 15 years, no one would like Jaden Ivey because he'd be what we would call a combo guard, right? He's not good enough as a floor general to play the point guard. He's not quite big enough or an off-ball shooter, good enough off-ball shooter to play the two guard. So, like, where do you put him? And now the problem with being a real combo guard like that is you need to play next to a bigger point guard like Cade. So that's why the fit is so great. Cade
Yeah.
is exactly what Jaden Ivey needs to excel. And I think Jaden Ivey does a lot to help Cade excel as well. The fact that he can take some pick and roll reps, the fact that you could run him off DHOs, you could run him off Iverson cuts and get him moving without the ball to take some more pressure off Cade. Like, that's all fantastic. And on top of it, he can also kick out and get Cade an open 3-pointer, which you'll note really went down for Cade after Jaden Ivey went down with that injury. So yes, give me all the Jaden Ivey at the 2. I think that just continue with that. That would be great. I'm really excited to see what he can do with a full off season, honestly, because he was just about cleared to play like full speed
Hmm.
contact basketball right at the end of that Knicks series. So if you figure maybe another couple weeks, another month, right, for him to really heal from that, he'll have most of the offseason to work on his craft and make improvements. It's not really a normal case of a guy having a season ending injury. And then that offseason's all about rehab, getting back up to speed, and you're entering training camp. Truthfully, a little bit worse than when you had gotten hurt, right? Because you got to get ramped back up. So I'm really excited to see what Jaden Ivey can do with this offseason, with this time to continue to make that fit there next to Cade even better. Because I really think both of them were hitting a stride together. Unfortunately, right when he went down. Let's really quickly let's end on this one. Okay, this is a question from another one from Dave 10.9 miles north of LCA. Says Troy Weaver wants Jalen Duren bad being in all caps. Would Jalen, Tobias Harris, and a first or 2, depending on year and conditions, plus the quote Weaver special unquote, which would be 4 second-round picks, be enough to land Trey Murphy? What do you think of this fake trade?
My question is, well, like it, immediately, like just at its bones, yeah, do it. But I don't think this is going to get it done. What is Troy Weaver like? How high up in the decision making do you think he is in New Orleans with Joe Dumars there? So Weaver's the GM, right? And
Right.
Dumars is the president. So I don't know. I just don't see. I don't see it happening again. And I wish this wasn't like my answer for all all these fake trades. But I think like uh, okay, like a first or two, like I think it would take at least two to get Trey Murphy, and like depending on what the Pelicans do and like what teams are gonna give up, but Trey Murphy is under contract for 4 more seasons, and in his last year of his deal, he's going to be making 31. Like that's a really, really good contract, and you don't have like Jalen Duren signed to an extension yet. If you trade him to New Orleans, they need to figure that out. Tobias is basically an expiring, so essentially, like I would see New Orleans maybe like trying to find a different home for Tobias or whatever it might be. But essentially, like what they're getting is the first round picks and Jalen Duren here, and like they just drafted Eve Missy last year. So do they want him? Maybe Troy Weaver definitely really wants Jalen Duren that bad, but I don't think it's the case. I think Trey Murphy would take a lot more than this, but like if I'm the Pistons, I would pull the trigger.
Yeah, I mean, is it just fair to say the Pelicans would be really dumb and short-sighted to trade Trey Murphy? He's
I mean,
young. He's on a
he's their best
fantastic
asset
deal.
right now.
Well, he's not only their
Like,
best asset. I think you could say he's their best player. Is that
yeah,
fair? I
yeah.
mean, right? He's
They got to get
he's
off
a
Zion.
great player. Yeah.
Yeah,
If anyone is getting moved out of New Orleans, it needs to be Zion Williamson. Like, I think if you get rid of Zion, or even if you just have a healthy Zion, which, we can leave that aside. That's almost an oxymoron at this point. But they've still got a good, talented team. You got DeJounte Murray. CJ McCollum's still a good player. Both those guys were hurt for significant portions of last year. Trey Murphy gets hurt against the Pistons. He misses a good portion of the year. Zion's been Zion. Like, look, they've got a good, talented squad. I think the last thing they should be doing is trying to sell their young wing, who is probably the best individual player on their roster when we factor in health, because Zion's probably the best talent overall on the roster, but he can't stay on the floor. Like try to get rid of DeJounte Murray, try to get rid of CJ McCollum. Sell off another asset. Don't get rid of Trey Murphy. It just doesn't make much sense. And then I'm with you too. Like if for some reason, they just weren't using their brains, weren't thinking much at all, they decided they wanted to trade Trey Murphy, then this doesn't feel like enough for it. Feels like you'd need more picks. You'd probably have to throw Jaden Ivey in there too. Like you would ruin. You'd have to decimate the assets that the Pistons currently have in order to get a guy like Trey Murphy. Rightfully so. He's very good. The upside with him is it wouldn't be hard to get to the salary point to match that, but
yeah.
Still, like I don't see it. I don't know if Trey Murphy's the kind of guy I'd want to absolutely empty the cupboard for, even though I really like him. And then from New Orleans' perspective, why would you get rid of him? He's the dude you build around, right? With getting rid of everyone else if you really wanted to tank, because he's still young enough and cheap enough for that. So no Trey Murphy. Unfortunately, he'd be awesome, but no Trey Murphy.
Yeah, I mean, his rookie extension with New Orleans which he signed last year, was 4 years, 112 million. Like, I would be like over the moon happy if that's what the Pistons signed Jaden Ivey to. Like, that's just a super valuable contract, and
Yep.
with the player he is, like, you don't just give that up unless. Like, he just turned 25 3 days ago. Happy belated birthday, Trey Murphy. But like he is like the one guy on their roster that it doesn't make sense for them to give up, other than like, okay, like argue Eve Missy, and other young players too. But other than that, like it just doesn't make any sense for them to part with him unless they just want to go all in on draft capital and being bad for a lot more years than they already will be.
All right, real quick before we get out of here, Z Digital, what would we have to give up for CJ McCollum? He would fit right in with the young core. What do you think?
Tobias, like
For
plus
for
a
salary,
set.
right?
Yeah, so CJ makes 30, like just above 30 for one more season. Like all I would do honestly is just like salary matching, and like I don't know
How many
if
years does
like
he have on that deal?
just one. It's just this
Oh,
year.
dang.
So
Okay.
like it almost like would I like to bring him in, sure, but like it almost just doesn't make sense like where how with his age and like where both teams are, like are could the Pistons bring him in and sign him to a lesser 2-year deal or like 1+1 deal, but like if you're trading for him this year, it just seems like salary matching. Like I don't even know if I'd want to give up multiple second round picks like plus that, because it's either Tobias or um Fontecchio plus like whatever contracts it takes to get to that. And I think like if you're going that route, you're giving up too many players than it you would like bring back. So it kind of just doesn't make sense to me.
If there was a second year on this deal for
Yeah.
CJ McCollum right now, I think then we'd be talking about an absolutely perfect scenario for the Tim Hardaway Jr. sign and trade, right?
Hmm.
Like if we could just magic an additional 1 year $30 million on the end of McCollum's deal. If the Pelicans wanted to get off that, have them want to try to do a sign and trade for Tim Hardaway Jr. for like 25, add in Fontecchio, have them give the Pistons McCollum in return, right? So they could basically get off all of that money, have more cap space in the future. Sure, yeah, that'd be great. But I'm with you. You would have to, because of the contract, you would have to give up assets to get him. So I think he would be awesome. I would love to have CJ McCollum as the kind of the third guard, right, in the rotation. He'd be way overqualified for that, but he'd be really good immediately in 6 man of the year contention, like right off the bat. It would be worth it. It wouldn't be a terrible overpaid to do it contract wise, but even if he was at the current level. But the thing from the Pistons perspective is, in order to get to the 30, you have to have Tobias Harris in it.
Hmm.
You have to add in maybe a Duran or a Ivy or something, right? Because if you don't want to go Tobias, then you need to find a way to get up to $30 million with basically a bunch of guys making less than 10. Because even Fontecchio's at, I think, 8. Isaiah Stewart's the only other option at 15. Do you want to move Stewart for CJ McCollum? No,
No.
that sounds like a bad idea. So I just don't think the fit's there. Yeah, Sean says missed the window for CJ McCollum. Unfortunately, I agree. He would have been great.
Hmm.
I just don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah, I mean, sign him to like a really small deal after next
Yeah,
season.
next offseason, right?
Yeah, why not? But yeah, I am totally in the same boat there. And yeah, I think that's a lot of New Orleans Pelicans talk to wrap this up. It makes sense where
Is
they're
this a
gonna
Pelicans podcast, Blake? Maybe we need to rebrand.
all, almost. We do before we get out of there here though. We need to hear your Game 7 prediction.
I don't like this. Man, it's so hard to pick against the Thunder. They're at home. Game 6 kind of felt fluky in a way. I mean, the Pacers were playing desperate. Credit to them. Back against the wall, they performed. This has been an awesome series. Best player on the floor is SGA. Deepest team is OKC. They got the home court advantage. Like, could Halliburton, Siakam, and Carlisle pull a rabbit out of the hat here? Maybe. Like, I want them to. I'm rooting for the Pacers. Brain says take Thunder, even though my heart doesn't want to. What
Yeah,
about you?
no, I'm in the same boat. I want to pick the Pacers. I just don't think that they're I think the Thunder are going to get this one. I mean, the Pacers knew they had to get one more in Oklahoma City to win the championship, so they have their opportunity. I think it's going to be a tough ask, and I think if the Thunder lose, I would be pretty shocked, but I've been pretty shocked with what these Pacers have been doing like through the whole postseason. So yeah, like you said, maybe they have one more rabbit to pull out of their hat.
Yeah. I guess the only narrative thing going for the Pacers is I think you could make a really good case that the Thunder should expect to be back in the future, the near future. They're so young, they're so talented. The Thunder aren't going anywhere outside of injuries. The Pacers, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be back on this. Yeah, like anything can happen in a game 7. This for the Pacers, this might be it. This might be it for the core. If you're looking for one team to be more desperate than the other, I think it's probably Indianapolis. I mean, just is that enough? I don't know. That's a lot of narrative I just spun for a team that's kind of outmatched talent-wise, and they've been punching above their weight class, so credit to them. It's been a fun ride. Hopefully they can finish it, but I just doubt it.
Yeah, it should be a fun game. I'm just hoping we don't get a blowout. I mean, it's game 7, so it'll be fun either way. The first game 7 since 2016. But yeah, whether whoever's listening to the recording, if you're listening to it on Sunday, you can hear our prediction, or if you're listening to it to start your week, maybe we both looked really dumb with that. So hope everyone enjoys.
I hope we do. I hope we look really dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Reminder, everyone can call our phone line to ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. Call us there, drop your draft thoughts, draft questions, off-season questions, whatever you got. And special thanks to Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for all the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.